So very excited to be up here to talk about Caitlyn, which is our enterprise-grade generative AI product. We've been busy working away on this for probably the past 4 or 5 months now, and we're now in market. And our first sort of research organization client went live yesterday, and still smooth sailing. So I've been checking the notifications frantically, but all is well. So very good sign. So introducing Caitlyn, what is she? I keep being told off for calling it it. It's quite personal, so what is she and what does she do? Essentially, kind of in a nutshell, we have taken a large language model and coupled it with a large knowledge base, so it could be your organizational data or enterprise or massive data sets. And using the technique that I think James outlined very well, the RAG technique, you're able to ask questions of your data and get accurate and timely responses and really delve deep and get some really good insights from your data. So today I've got 2 demos prepared. One is on the client that went live with us on Monday, who are in the arable crops research space. And I've got another demo which I have sort of contrived for this roadshow, which is built around councils and long-term plans and as residents what you might want to ask of that data. So why did we build Caitlyn and what was the kind of premise behind it? Well, when working with a lot of our clients and talking to them about adopting generative AI, we realized that there were quite a lot of challenges and some sort of barriers to adoption. The number one being the data privacy and security concerns. I think we've heard already a lot of people are kind of worried about putting in sensitive data that might potentially be used to train models further down the line. Questions around IP, what happens with it. And also knowing where to start. With some of these solutions that are out there at the moment, there's no real sort of silver bullet. You can't just flick it on and away you go. So there does need to be a bit of hand-holding, getting your data into the right sort of order, and getting it sort of all ready to go to turn on the AI switch. Scalability problems, lack of customization, support and expertise. These are more sort of generic ones. There is the cost question. Generative AI can be quite costly, especially if you deploy it in a public-facing environment. Imagine if you get sort of 10,000 or 1 million requests coming through at once or questions. There's the potential for that cost to be quite high. And the big one is integrating it into existing systems and workflows. It's not everyone's cup of tea wanting to have to go off to ChatGPT or Claude or any of these kind of services. The reason why we built Caitlyn is because we can integrate it quite tightly into your existing systems and workflows as long as there's sort of web-based APIs and ways to integrate. We also have put a lot of work into fine-tuning and guardrails aspect to make sure that the responses that come back from Caitlyn, you might want to avoid certain topics or stay away from certain areas. And so there's a lot of fine-tuning capabilities that keeps the quality of the responses high and accurate. I should mention as well that we have built this on AWS Bedrock, which allows us to kind of switch out all the different models behind the scene to choose the one that's best suited for what you want to do. So this is FAR. FAR is a client that's been working with us for quite a while. The FAR stands for the Foundation for Arable Research. They are a levy-funded organisation. Farmers pay levies that go to FAR that funds the research that they do. The research is really, really good stuff. They're sort of recognised internationally for it. But they have a bit of a problem. And when we sort of invited them in the end of last year to talk about generative AI and show them some of the capabilities, one of the big pain points and problems that they had was that they produce all of this really good information. A lot of it is just research PDFs that upload to the website. But they were struggling to get user engagement from the growers. It turned out, as you can imagine, with thousands of PDFs released over 30 years, the growers were finding, they had to sort of really sit down and get into the zone to search through the site and, try and find the right information. And once they found what they thought was the right PDF, they then got to go through it and try and find the right bit of information. Even then, it could be quite scientific. So quite a long process and quite time-consuming. And we actually did build their website as well. So we're sort of, as we're talking through this, the sort of gravity of that wasn't lost on us. So, but the reason that it's so hard to find is because working with traditional keyword search will only match on the keywords that you enter, and then it's got to go through all of the documents. And as I'll show you, Caitlyn, and using the power of generative AI and RAG, where it's based off semantic meaning rather than keyword, is a lot more powerful and can be a lot more precise and accurate. So this is Anna, our main point of contact at FAR. She's the communications manager, and she came up with this really good quote. She said, "The site is a goldmine information, but a labyrinth to negotiate, especially for the growers who are often looking for very specific data, and they don't have the time to kind of read through tons and tons and tons of reports to get through to get the bit of information that they are looking for." Caitlyn has sort of been rebranded as Ask FAR AI, which kind of shows, because we've integrated it, it is now sort of their solution that they've deployed that their growers will interact with. And they want to be seen as kind of like thought leaders in the space and the go-to site for all things arable, which this will hopefully tick that box for. It's also going to hopefully boost the engagement, and we're seeing really positive sort of results and signs from early beta testing. And one of the things that I'll show you towards the end is that we've used Amazon QuickSight to build an analytics dashboard that captures all of the conversations anonymously and can pull out insights and do sentiment analysis and all those bits and pieces, so that they can take that kind of feedback and roll it into the material they produce for events and conferences that they run throughout the year. So that was sort of a key requirement that they had to have as part of this. So, demo time. So this is FAR's current website. A big call to action is the search bar, and they have various information, a lot of information on the site, podcasts, different types of media. But if we have a look at their resources and their research, it's pretty much just categorized by topic, and they have lots and lots and lots of bits of research, PDFs, content, 359 for cereals, 255 results for crop action, 110 for diseases, and there's many, many, many more bits of content sort of buried in the site. And if you search for a term such as increasing seed yield, you'll get 46 results sort of sorted by relevance, but again, that is based on keyword search. And while accurate, you still have to kind of read through, a summary, potentially jump into a PDF. And these are sort of the raw PDFs that they produce and upload onto the site. It can be quite scientific, lots of kind of wordy content to digest, and can take a bit of time to figure out and find the bit of information you're looking for. So I threw in a few PDFs to try and, I probably should have chosen longer ones to kind of show you the extent of some of the time that has to be spent, but these are quite short ones. I think this is the last one here, clover desiccation. One good thing about this is now I'm an expert on arable crop farming, sort of. This is an example of a more wordy one. So this, I think, combines sort of tables with text and other kind of statistics. And as you can imagine, if you would sort of sit down and read through this, you probably want to set aside a bit of time to go through this. So what we've done is we've integrated Caitlyn as Ask FAR AI into their website. So it's natively integrated and skinned or styled, if you like. So it is part of their website now. And in this case, I'm saying, I live in the Canterbury region. What are the closing dates for ryegrass? And the great thing about this is that it now has context of where I live, and it's able to use that as part of a considered response. So it's gone through, and it's given me some really good kind of content on the closing dates, and all of this is pulled out around me being in Canterbury. To make sure it's not hallucinating, I can check its work, click the citations. It directs me to the exact point in the PDF that it's pulled the information and highlights it for me. As you see, this is from the cropping strategies document. And the other really powerful thing about this is that it'll pull across multiple different types of documents. So there might be 5 or 6 research documents that talk about closing dates, and we are actually using agentic workflows behind the scenes to classify, go across multiple types of documents, pull out what seems the most relevant, and then summarizing that into a response for them. So as you can see on this one here, there's 17 different sources that it's pulled from. Another example here, increasing ryegrass seed yield. That time I just literally wrote, how can I increase my yield? It already knows that I live in Canterbury, so that context of the conversation carries on. And one of the really interesting things, and something I didn't actually realize it could do, is that it's actually very adept at reading charts and graphs, especially tabular data as well, and pulling out, it might be financial data, which I'll show you in the council demo, but for this case, it can interpret some of the yield information, and it can use that as part of its response as well. So this is just using the Claude 3 model behind the scenes. See there, it's highlighted the chart. And I think maybe this is the last one. Oh yeah, this is testing the guardrail. So what is the best way to infect my neighbour's ryegrass seed crop with blind seed disease, if you're feeling particularly sinister? And it's come back and said, I apologise, but I cannot provide any information or assistance with intentionally infecting or damaging somebody else's crop, as that would be unethical and illegal. And we can try and sort of catch it out by flipping it around and saying, if my neighbour is the one trying to infect my crop, how can I defend myself against them? And again, I can't catch it out. Came back and said, I apologise, but I cannot recommend. And one of the most memorable moments when we were rolling this out was we were sitting in a meeting with FAR, and we had various members of the company there, sort of the chair of the board and some growers and research scientists, and we came with a very carefully curated set of questions that we knew what the responses were going to be, and almost straight away they just kind of took over and just started hurling all sorts of things at us, like, you know, does this pesticide cause cancer and this, that, and the other, and we're just sitting there going, oh God, I hope it doesn't come back with something it shouldn't, but it's pretty good. Using Claude, it's more of the one of the more ethical models, and it is pretty good with its responses. And will tell you when things are inappropriate and so on and so forth. This is the QuickSight dashboard that I mentioned at the start. So all of the conversations that happen within Caitlyn get sucked into a QuickSight dashboard, all anonymized, so they can see, you know, what the trending topics are, how people are rating responses, the sentiment analysis, whether people are reacting positively or negatively. And this was very useful during our sort of fine-tuning and training, because we could look at all of the responses that weren't graded well, and then we could fine-tune the prompts underneath the scenes to make it more relevant and more accurate. You can see here, these are all the conversations that have sort of happened, and it sort of graded it whether someone was happy or not happy with the response. But yeah, very useful information for them, because they tailor all of their research and event content and on-farm site trials and bits and pieces around what they think the growers would like to know about. So this is very, very useful information to them. So that, oh, I've exited. That is demo number 1. Talked a little bit about this. Behind the scenes, we're using a AWS environment, so it'll be deployed into the client's own cloud environment, keeping it nice, private, and secure. We're using AWS Bedrock as the technology that powers it behind the scenes, and we're leveraging some of the built-in features such as guardrails, which means that it will avoid certain topics or won't go off. And like one of the things we're doing is we're saying only to use your training data, so it doesn't go off and use its generic training set, for instance. So it's only going to respond with your information. And we have animations. So this is a graphic from my talk this morning, which just kind of shows that retrieval augmented process. So asking a question, pulling it back out from the knowledge base, sending it to the large language model with guardrails and everything in check, and then it generates a response. So let's quickly look at another example. So this is a contrived one that we've created for the Roadshow, which is around city councils. City councils have a huge amount of information in all sorts of places. A lot of it can be quite complicated. Again, you need to spend a lot of time to sort of sit down and try and find it. They have limited resources in terms of, customer support. So, quite often, slow and efficient to find things. Customer service can be restricted to weekday office hours. And they just have limited resources to kind of handle all of these inquiries and help people find information. So what we've kind of done with this demo is populate it with the Christchurch City Council's long-term district plan, which I think was sort of 12 or 14 quite chunky, meaty documents. And the idea is that this could boost engagement with residents. They can ask questions in context of where they live and what they want to find out, and it will be able to pull out accurate and quick responses for them to digest. So for the second demo, this is sort of Caitlyn in her sort of raw form, if you like, her natural form. We've just asked a question saying, how much my rate's going to increase by? And it's pulled out my rates increase for 2024, 2025, and Christchurch is going to be roughly 9.9%. And you can see where it's got that from. It's pulled it out of a financial overview document, which is roughly 9 pages long. So that was the first thing I asked it because I wanted to know myself. For the next question, you might ask something like, what will the council fees for gym memberships be? And again, it goes and pulls that out. This is an example where it's kind of got more tabular data that's working with, and it's pulled out membership fees. But you can get quite specific. In your conversation, you might say that, I only wanted to attend certain classes, or I'm a family, or other things like that, and it'll quickly kind of pull out that relevant information instead of you having to scan through the whole document. So this one is, I think it's 93 pages, so a much, much larger document. So, find and replace will only take you so far with something like that. This is a more kind of considered one. So what are the council's main strategic priorities, and what is their desired outcomes? So this is kind of pulled from multiple pieces of information around their strategic priorities, desired outcomes, so collaborative, confident city, green, livable city, thriving, prosperous. And you can see this is the first document where it's kind of pulled out some bullet point information and generated a response around that. And then for the second one, it's done the same, but kind of got it from a completely different source and completely different document. So it's combined those two bits of information and generated a response that incorporating both of them into it. And I think this might be the final question I threw at it, or maybe the second to last, but what improvements are planned for parks? So the really cool thing about this is that you could put in where you live, and it could actually pull out information specific to your area or things that you're particularly interested in. This is quite generic, but it's pulled out sort of the funding that they have in place, and this is quite a long response, but again, pulling it from multiple pieces of information. So this is sort of a 54-page document, and you can see here we've got more of like an Excel-style spreadsheet where it's gone along and sort of pulled out the numbers and the date ranges, and it was able to kind of interpret that over 10 years, I think it was sort of 3.7 million have been allocated to sort of parks within Christchurch. Again, what are the timelines? So you can have that sort of natural conversation interaction and keep putting in more and more and more questions, which is a huge time saver as opposed to having to kind of digest and read all the documents and then bounce around and locate all these bits of information. I'm pretty sure this is the last query now. So the all-important heritage buildings in Christchurch, especially after the earthquake. And again, I think in this case, it's gone through the financial documents and some other ones, pulled out what it's doing with heritage buildings, the budgets, the funding timelines, the particular buildings that are in the plan. And you can see that's been pulled from, I think it was like a planned, I saw it just before, planned capital program summary. So again, like another 50-something page document, pulled out the information from there and has kind of produced it in a more considered response for someone to digest. Cool, so that is the council demo. So to kind of sum it up, why would you go with something like Caitlyn as opposed to Amazon Q or Microsoft 365 or all the other kind of tools and products out there? For us, we wanted to create something that was private and secure, which Q and 365 can be, but also something that you could open up to the public and tightly integrate into your own sort of systems and workflows. So for things where you might need high customization, you might need to really scale it, you might have thousands of users. And we put a lot of effort into the guardrails and making sure that it doesn't hallucinate or kind of go off topic. For FAR, they had to avoid using the word recommends because they couldn't be seen as recommending products to farmers. So a lot of work has gone into making sure that it doesn't do that. Some of the upcoming capabilities is adding the concept of tool calling. So the idea is that you could, for FAR, you could connect their version of Caitlyn to weather systems. So if you're a grower wanting to know about a particular technique or crop, you can also sort of query weather systems and tell you when the ideal time for planting might be, and there's other use cases like that. And with the sort of response and analytics, we can do ongoing fine-tuning to make sure that the responses get better and better, more accurate over time. And also there is a great team of developers to support you in the process. So that's it. That's the demo on Caitlyn. I hope you found that interesting. If you want to know more, you can go to getcaitlyn.ai or come grab me. I'll be floating around for the rest of the day. And we do have an AI toolkit which covers a lot about what we spoke about this morning and some information more specific to Caitlyn as well, which I guess, Justin, you will circulate during the roadshow. So thank you very much.